The thing about Halloween parties is that everyone's already wearing a mask, so when the real monsters show up, you don't notice until it's too late. I'm Eddie Halloran, and I should have seen it coming. 38 years old, ex-boxer turned home security consultant, and apparently blind as a bat when it comes to my own wife. But standing in Rick's living room, watching my wife Alyssa laugh a little too hard at Derek Cross's jokes, I finally started connecting the dots. "Nice costume, Eddie," Suze Cross said, appearing beside me with 2 drinks. She was dressed as Catwoman, the same costume as my wife, which should have been my second clue. Very swashbuckling. I adjusted my pirate hat and took the beer. "Thanks. You and Alyssa planning this twin thing, or just great minds thinking alike?" Suze's smile flickered. "Oh, you know how it is with best friends. We share everything." Everything. The word hung in the air like smoke from a house fire. Across the room, Alyssa, my fitness instructor wife of 8 years, was practically draped over Derek, Suze's husband. He was dressed as Tarzan, all muscles and fake tan, and eating up the attention like a starved man at a buffet. "Eddie," Rick appeared, slightly drunk and grinning. "Great party, right? Everyone's having such a good time." Rick had been my best friend since college. Good guy, terrible judge of social situations. He had no idea he was hosting the destruction of 2 marriages. "Yeah," I said, watching Derek's hand rest on my wife's lower back. "Real good time." The party swirled around us. Neighbors, friends, people I'd known for years. All of them oblivious to the little drama unfolding in plain sight. Or maybe they weren't oblivious. Maybe they were just polite enough to pretend they didn't see what I was finally seeing. I excused myself and headed to the kitchen for another beer. That's when I heard them. "And can't keep doing this," Alyssa was saying, her voice low and urgent. "Why not?" Derek's voice, rough with want. "It's not like they suspect anything." I froze in the doorway. They were by the back door, thinking they were alone. "Suze has been asking questions," Alyssa said, "and Eddie's not stupid." Derek laughed. "Eddie's a washed-up boxer who installs security cameras for soccer moms. He's not exactly Sherlock Holmes." That stung, but not as much as watching Derek pull my wife against him, his hands tangled in her dark hair. "We could just tell them," he said. "Start fresh. You, me, somewhere new." Alyssa pulled back. "It's not that simple. There's money involved. The house, Eddie's business. I'm not walking away empty-handed." Money, of course. Because apparently I wasn't just a clueless husband. I was a clueless husband with assets worth stealing. I backed away before they could see me, my mind racing. 8 years of marriage, and this is what it came down to. My wife and my neighbor's husband, planning their escape route through my bank account. The party continued around me, but everything felt different now. Every laugh sounded forced, every smile looked fake. I was Neo seeing the Matrix for the first time, except instead of learning I could bend spoons, I was learning my life was a lie. "You okay, Eddie?" It was Jen, Alyssa's friend from the hospital where she worked as a nurse. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "Just tired," I said. "Long week." Jen nodded sympathetically. "Alyssa mentioned you've been working a lot lately." "She's been spending more time at the gym, getting her frustrations out." She winked. "Derek's been helping her with her form." "I'll bet he has." "Yeah," I managed. "She's very dedicated to her fitness." The rest of the party passed in a blur. I made small talk, laughed at jokes, played the part of the happy husband while my world crumbled around me. Alyssa and Derek were more careful after their kitchen encounter, but I was watching now, really watching. The way she touched his arm when she talked to him. The way he looked at her when he thought no one was paying attention. The way Suze kept drinking, her smile getting tighter with each glass of wine. By the time we got home, I was exhausted from pretending everything was normal. "Great party," Alyssa said, kicking off her heels. "Rick really outdid himself this year." "Yeah," I said, "really great." She disappeared into the bathroom to wash off her makeup, and I sat on the edge of our bed staring at my hands. These hands had built a business from nothing. They'd installed security systems in half the houses in our neighborhood. They'd held this woman on our wedding day, believing we'd grow old together. Now they were shaking with rage. The text came 3 days later while I was installing cameras at a client's house. A simple message that destroyed what was left of my faith in humanity. "Eddie, I'm going on vacation with my ex-boyfriend Marcus. We just want closure. I'll be back in a week." I read it 3 times, standing in Mrs. Peterson's living room with a drill in my hand and my mouth hanging open. "Everything all right, dear?" Mrs. Peterson asked. "Just fine," I lied, pocketing my phone. "Let me finish up here." But my hands were steady now. Funny how clarity can calm the shakes. I finished the job in record time and drove home, my mind working like the security consultant I was. Alyssa thought she was smart, but she'd made a crucial mistake. She'd assumed I was the same trusting fool I'd been 3 days ago. Our house was empty, but I could see signs of hasty packing. Drawers left open, hangers scattered on the closet floor. She'd taken her good luggage, the set we'd bought for our honeymoon. I went down to my basement office, what Alyssa mockingly called my man cave, and pulled up our joint credit card account. 2 plane tickets to Miami, booked that morning, hotel reservation for a week. Then I called the airline. "Hi, this is Eddie Halloran. My wife just booked tickets on your 6 p.m. flight to Miami, but there's been a family emergency. I need to cancel them immediately." 20 minutes and a fake sob story later, the tickets were canceled. The hotel reservation took another 10 minutes. Then I sat back and waited. My phone rang at 7:30 p.m. "Eddie?" Alyssa's voice was tight with panic. "Something's wrong. Marcus never showed up, and they're saying our tickets were canceled. The hotel says they have no record of our reservation." "That's strange," I said, keeping my voice neutral. "Maybe you should come home." "I can't just come home. I need this closure, Eddie. Marcus and I have unfinished business." "I'm sure you do, but it sounds like Marcus doesn't agree." There was a long pause. "Can you help me? Maybe book another flight? I'll pay you back." "With what money, Alyssa? You don't have a job." Another pause, longer this time. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means exactly what it sounds like. You want closure with your ex? Find it on your own dime." I hung up. She called back 6 times. I didn't answer. Instead, I did what I do best. I investigated. My little sister Molly worked in digital forensics for an insurance company. She owed me a favor from when I'd helped her move last month. "I need you to look into something for me," I told her when she answered. Quietly. "What kind of something?" "The kind that might end my marriage." Molly was quiet for a moment. She'd never liked Alyssa, thought she was too high maintenance, too focused on appearances. But she'd kept her opinions to herself out of respect for me. "What do you need?" "Phone records, credit card statements, anything that shows a pattern." "Eddie, I can't hack into—" "I'm not asking you to hack anything. I'm asking you to help me look at my own accounts. Accounts I have legal access to." She sighed. "Bring me what you have." "But Eddie, if you find what I think you're going to find, you need to be ready for it." I was ready. I'd been getting ready since Halloween night. Alyssa came home the next day, her tail between her legs and her pride in tatters. She'd spent the night in an airport hotel, alone and humiliated. "We need to talk," she said, dropping her bags in the hallway. "Do we?" She followed me into the kitchen, where I was making coffee like it was any other morning. "I know you're angry, but you don't understand. Marcus and you what? Have unfinished business? Need closure?" I turned to face her. "Or maybe Marcus just isn't as stupid as you thought I was?" Her face went pale. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means I know about Derek." The words hung between us like a loaded tool. Alyssa's mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. "Nothing to say?" "That's not like you, Alyssa. You usually have an opinion about everything." "Eddie, save it. I heard you at the party. You and Derek making plans, talking about starting fresh, somewhere new, talking about my money." She sank into a chair, her hands shaking. "It's not what you think." "Really? Because what I think is that my wife has been screwing the neighbor while planning to take half my assets and disappear with him. Am I wrong?" Tears started flowing, but they looked calculated. Alyssa had always been good at crying on command. "It just happened, Eddie. Derek and we didn't plan it. We were both unhappy, and you decided to do something about it behind my back instead of talking to your husband. You're never here. You're always working, always focused on your business. When was the last time we had a real conversation? When was the last time you tried to have one? When was the last time you asked about my day, or my work, or anything that didn't involve you?" She didn't have an answer for that. "I want a divorce," I said quietly. "Eddie, please. We can work this out. We can go to counseling. We can nothing. It's over, Alyssa. The only question now is whether we do this the easy way or the hard way. She looked up at me, mascara streaking her cheeks. What's the hard way? I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Trust me, you don't want to find out. The thing about being a security consultant is that you learn to see patterns, weaknesses, points of entry, and after 15 years in the business, I'd gotten pretty good at finding them. Alyssa moved out the next week, staying with Jen while she figured things out. But I knew she wasn't figuring anything out. She was regrouping, planning her next move. That was fine. I was planning too. You sure about this? Molly asked, spreading printouts across my kitchen table. Once you start down this road, there's no going back. I looked at the evidence she'd compiled. Phone records showing hundreds of texts between Alyssa and Derek. Credit card statements showing charges at hotels I'd never been to. A paper trail of betrayal going back 8 months. I'm sure. What about Suze? She's going to get hurt in all this. Suze Cross had been Alyssa's best friend since high school. They'd been inseparable, which made Derek's betrayal even more twisted. But I'd seen the way Suze looked at her husband lately. Tired, suspicious, hurt. She already knew something was wrong. Suze deserves the truth, I said. They all do. Molly nodded and gathered up the papers. What do you need me to do? Nothing illegal. Nothing that could come back on you. But if you happen to see Derek around town, and if you happen to have your phone ready, she grinned, I do love a good photography project. The first move was subtle. Derek drove a pristine 1970 Mustang, his pride and joy. He spent every Saturday morning washing and waxing it in his driveway, making sure the whole neighborhood could admire his ride. Saturday morning, I took a walk past his house. Derek was there as expected, polishing the chrome with religious devotion. His car was beautiful, I had to admit. Glossy black paint, perfect interior, engine that purred like a contented cat. It would be a shame if something happened to it. That night, I paid Derek's car another visit. Nothing dramatic, just a little sugar in the gas tank. An old trick that doesn't actually damage the engine, but makes it run rough enough to require a tow truck and some expensive diagnostic work. Monday morning, Derek's Mustang died on his way to work. He had to call in late, arrange for a tow, and spend his lunch break at the mechanic's shop getting lectured about contaminated fuel and proper storage procedures. It was a small victory, but it felt good. The second move was more direct. Derek worked at Patterson Manufacturing, supervising the night shift. He was proud of his position, always talking about his team and his leadership responsibilities. What he didn't know was that Patterson's HR department took anonymous tips very seriously, especially when they involved workplace harassment. I didn't lie in my report. I simply mentioned that I'd observed Derek Cross engaging in inappropriate behavior with a married woman at a neighborhood party, and that as someone who did business with Patterson's day shift, I was concerned about the company's reputation. Derek got called into HR Tuesday morning. Nothing came of it officially. There was no proof of wrongdoing at work, but word spread quickly through the plant. Derek's reputation as a ladies' man suddenly became a liability instead of a bragging point. By Wednesday, he was paranoid and jumpy. By Thursday, he was looking over his shoulder everywhere he went. Friday night, he showed up at my door. We need to talk, he said, pushing past me into my living room. Derek Cross was a big man, 6'2", 220, all muscle and attitude. He'd played football in high school, lifted weights religiously, and wasn't used to people standing up to him. But I'd been a boxer for 6 years before I got into security work. I knew how to handle myself. Sure, I said, closing the door behind him. Let's talk. I know what you're doing, he said, turning to face me. The car, the job, all of it. You think you're being clever, but you're just making things worse for everyone. Am I? How's that? Alyssa doesn't want to be married to you anymore, Eddie. She hasn't for a long time. You can make this as difficult as you want, but it won't change anything. You're right, I said. It won't change the fact that she's a cheating liar or that you're a backstabbing piece of trash who betrayed his wife with her best friend. Derek's face flushed red. Watch your mouth. Or what? You'll hit me in my own house? That would be assault, Derek. I've got cameras everywhere, and I know how to use them. He looked around, noticing for the first time the small security cameras mounted in the corners of the room. His confidence wavered slightly. This doesn't have to get ugly, he said, trying a different approach. We're all adults here. Alyssa and I are in love. These things happen. We can handle this like civilized people. Civilized people don't screw their best friend's husband behind everyone's back for 8 months. 8 months? Derek looked genuinely surprised. It hasn't been 8 months. Phone records say otherwise. Want to see them? I pulled out my phone and showed him some of Molly's research. Derek's face went white as he scrolled through the evidence. This is private information. I can't what? Look at my own wife's phone records? Check my own credit card statements? You might want to brush up on your legal rights before you start making threats. Derek handed back my phone, his hands shaking slightly. What do you want? I want you to stay away from my wife until the divorce is final. I want you to tell your wife the truth about what you've been doing. And I want you to stop pretending you're the victim here. And if I don't, I smiled, then things get a lot worse for you. See, the thing about being in the security business is that you learn all sorts of interesting things about people, their routines, their habits, their secrets. You'd be amazed what people do when they think no one's watching. Derek stared at me for a long moment, then headed for the door. This isn't over. No, I agreed, it's not. He left and I poured myself a drink. Round one to me, but the fight was just getting started. The divorce papers were filed Monday morning. By Monday afternoon, Alyssa was at my door, furious and desperate. You can't do this, she said, waving the legal documents. Half of everything is mine, the house, the business, all of it. Actually, I said, not inviting her in, that's not how it works when there's adultery involved, especially when there's evidence of planning to defraud a spouse. Her face went pale. What evidence? The kind that holds up in court. You might want to get a good lawyer, Alyssa. You're going to need one. She tried threats first, then tears, then bargaining. None of it worked. I'd made my decision and I was sticking to it. Tuesday, I got a call from Suze Cross. Eddie, it's Suze. Can we talk? We met at a coffee shop downtown, away from the neighborhood gossip network. Suze looked terrible, tired, stressed, like she hadn't slept in days. Derek told me, she said without preamble, about him and Alyssa. I'm sorry, Suze. I know this is hard. She laughed bitterly. Hard? My husband has been screwing my best friend for months, and I'm supposed to find it hard? I find it devastating, Eddie. I find it soul-crushing, but not hard. What are you going to do? I don't know. Derek wants to work it out, says it was a mistake, that he loves me, that it'll never happen again. She stirred her coffee absently. What would you do? I'd make him pay for it. She looked up at me, something sharp and angry flickering in her eyes. How? However I could. Legally, publicly, financially. I'd make sure everyone knew what kind of man he really was. Is that what you're doing with Alyssa? Among other things. Suze was quiet for a long moment. I heard about Derek's car trouble and the thing at work. Did you? That was you, wasn't it? I didn't answer directly. Derek's got a lot of problems right now. Maybe he should focus on fixing those instead of trying to start a new life with someone else's wife. Suze smiled for the first time since I'd known her. It wasn't a nice smile. Maybe he should. Wednesday brought a new development. Alyssa's gym, where she taught fitness classes and had been angling for a management position, suddenly decided they didn't need her services anymore. It's not personal, the owner, Jim Martinez, told her. It's just that some of our members have expressed concerns about your situation. We cater to families here, Alyssa. Image matters. What Jim didn't mention was the anonymous tip he'd received about Alyssa's inappropriate relationship with a married client, or the photos someone had emailed showing her and Derek leaving a hotel together. Molly had gotten very good at surveillance photography. Thursday, Derek's problems multiplied. His teenage son, Kyle, who lived with Derek's ex-wife most of the time, heard about his father's affair through the neighborhood grapevine. The kid was furious and embarrassed, and he let Derek know it in a very public confrontation at the grocery store. Everyone at school is talking about it, Kyle shouted, not caring who heard. My dad's a cheater, and everyone knows it. Derek tried to calm him down, but Kyle was having none of it. Mom was right about you. You're pathetic. The scene was witnessed by half the neighborhood, including Mrs. Patterson, whose husband owned the factory where Derek worked. By Friday, Derek was called into HR again, this time for a performance review that everyone knew was really about his personal life, affecting his professional reputation. Meanwhile, Alyssa was discovering that her support network was rapidly shrinking. Jen, her friend from the hospital, suddenly became too busy to hang out. Other friends stopped returning calls. The neighborhood wives, who used to chat with her at the mailbox, now crossed the street to avoid her. Adultery, it turned out, was still a social disaster in suburban America. Friday evening, I was in my basement office when Rick called. Eddie, we need to talk. Can I come over? Rick had been my best friend for 20 years. If anyone was going to stick by me through this mess, it would be him. He arrived 10 minutes later, looking uncomfortable. Beer? I offered. Yeah, thanks. He took the bottle but didn't drink. Look, Eddie, I know what you're going through. Divorce is heck, and what Alyssa did was wrong. But some of the guys are worried about how you're handling it. Some of the guys? Me, Tony, Bill, a few others. We've heard things, and about Derek's car, his job troubles, Alyssa losing her position at the gym. People are saying you're behind it. I sat back in my chair. And what do you think? I think you're my friend, and I want to help you through this. But I also think maybe you should ease up a little. Let the lawyers handle it. The lawyers can handle the legal stuff, but they can't handle justice. Justice? Eddie, this is starting to look like revenge. What's the difference? Rick was quiet for a moment. The difference is that revenge makes you just as bad as they are. Does it? Because from where I sit, they destroyed my marriage, stole 8 months of my life, and planned to rob me blind. What I'm doing is just making sure there are consequences. But where does it end? When do you stop? I looked at my oldest friend and realized that he didn't get it. He'd never been betrayed like this, never had his whole life revealed as a lie. He meant well, but he couldn't understand. It ends when they've lost as much as I have. Rick finished his beer and stood up. I hope you know what you're doing, Eddie. Because if you keep this up, you're going to lose more than just your marriage. You're going to lose your friends, too. After he left, I sat in my basement for a long time, thinking about what he'd said. Maybe he was right. Maybe I was going too far. Then I remembered Alyssa and Derek in Rick's kitchen, planning their future with my money, and my resolve hardened. Some things were worth losing friends over. The confrontation I'd been expecting finally came the following Tuesday. I was at a client's house, installing a new security system, when Derek showed up. We need to finish our conversation, he said, his voice tight with barely controlled anger. My client, an elderly woman named Mrs. Chen, looked nervous. Should I call the police? That won't be necessary, I said calmly. Mr. Cross was just leaving. No, I wasn't. Derek stepped closer, trying to use his size to intimidate me. You've been playing games, Eddie, but the games are over. Back off, or I'll make you back off. Mrs. Chen retreated to her kitchen, probably to call emergency. Smart woman. Is that a threat, Derek? It's a promise. You've cost me my job, my reputation, my relationship with my son. Enough is enough. You cost yourself those things when you decided to screw my wife. Derek's face turned red. Your wife came to me, Eddie. She was lonely and neglected, and she needed a real man. A real man doesn't betray his friends and neighbors. Friends? Derek laughed harshly. We were never friends. You're a washed-up boxer who peaked in high school. Alyssa deserves better. Maybe she does, but she doesn't deserve you. That's when Derek snapped. He lunged at me, his fist aimed at my jaw. But I'd been expecting it, and 15 years out of the ring hadn't made me forget how to slip a punch. I sidestepped his swing and caught him with a short uppercut to the solar plexus. Derek doubled over, gasping for breath. You should leave now, I said quietly, before Mrs. Chen's emergency call brings the police. Derek straightened up slowly, his face twisted with rage and humiliation. This isn't over. Yes, it is. You just don't know it yet. He left, and I finished installing Mrs. Chen's security system. She made me tea and told me about her late husband, who'd been a boxer in Korea. We had a nice conversation about the importance of standing up for yourself. That evening, I called Molly. I need a favor, I said. The kind that might get complicated. What do you have in mind? Derek's going to try something. He's desperate and desperate, angry people make mistakes. I want to be ready when he does. Ready how? I want to turn my house into a trap. Molly was quiet for a moment. Eddie, that sounds dangerous. Not dangerous, just educational. For Derek. She sighed. What do you need? I spent the next 2 days preparing. Motion sensors in the yard, cameras with night vision, audio recording equipment in every room. I also made some modifications to my garage and basement. Nothing illegal, just creative use of home security equipment. The trap was baited and ready. Now I just had to wait for Derek to walk into it. I didn't have to wait long. Thursday night around 2 a.m., my security system detected movement in the backyard. I watched on my phone as Derek crept toward my house carrying what looked like a crowbar. He was planning to break in. Perfect. I let him get to the back door before triggering the first surprise. A motion-activated spotlight that lit up the yard like a baseball stadium. Derek froze, temporarily blinded. Then came the audio recording, broadcast through the outdoor speakers I'd installed. Attention! You are trespassing on private property. The police have been notified. Please remain where you are. Derek panicked and ran toward the garage, probably thinking he could hide there until the imaginary police went away. But the garage door was rigged with a pressure sensor. As soon as he stepped inside, it closed behind him and locked. Now Derek was trapped in my garage, which I'd equipped with cameras and speakers. I could see him and talk to him, but he couldn't get out. "Hello, Derek," I said through the intercom system. "Thanks for dropping by." He spun around, looking for the camera. "Let me out of here, Eddie. In a minute. First, we're going to have that conversation you wanted. This is kidnapping. I'll have you arrested. Actually, it's citizen's arrest. You were caught trespassing and attempting to break into my home. I have it all on video." Derek looked around frantically, realizing he was in serious trouble. Okay. I'm sorry. I was drunk. I wasn't thinking clearly. Just let me go and we'll forget this whole thing." "I don't think so. See, Derek, you've been causing problems for me. My marriage, my peace of mind, my friendships. And now you're trying to break into my house. That's escalation, Derek. That's threatening behavior. What do you want? I want you to tell the truth, all of it, on camera." I'd set up a professional quality video camera in the garage, the kind I used for security consultations. Derek was well lit and clearly visible. "Start with when you first slept with my wife." "Eddie, please. Start talking, Derek, or I call the police right now and have you arrested for attempted burglary." Derek looked at the camera, then back at the locked door, then at me through the intercom speaker. He was trapped, and he knew it. "It was last Christmas," he said quietly, "at the Johnsons' party. Alyssa and I were both drunk, and Suze had gone home early with a headache. We ended up talking on the back porch, and one thing led to another. And then it kept happening. Once a week, sometimes more. We'd meet at hotels, or when you were out of town on business. She said you didn't appreciate her, that you took her for granted. Did you take her for granted, Derek? Your wife?" His face crumpled. Yeah, I did." "What was the plan? You and Alyssa, what were you going to do?" "She wanted to wait until after the divorce was final. Take half your assets, then we'd move somewhere new. Start over. Using my money. Using her money. Her half of the divorce settlement. Money she only had because she was married to me. Money she was stealing through fraud." Derek was crying now, ugly sobs that shook his whole body. "I'm sorry, Eddie. I'm so sorry. I never meant for it to go this far. But it did go this far. And now there are consequences." I opened the garage door and stepped inside, holding my phone. On the screen was a live stream that had been broadcasting Derek's confession to a private YouTube channel. "Smile, Derek. You're live on the internet." His face went white. "You bastard. You recorded all of this? Every word. And it's already been uploaded to the cloud, so don't get any ideas about destroying the evidence." Derek looked broken, defeated. "What happens now?" "Now you go home to your wife and tell her everything. You confess to attempted burglary. You stay away from me and Alyssa until the divorce is final. And you pray that I don't decide to press charges. And if I don't," I held up my phone, showing him the video of his confession, "then this goes public. Your wife sees it, your son sees it, your coworkers see it. Everyone in town gets to watch Derek Cross admit to adultery, fraud, and attempted burglary." Derek stumbled toward the door, then stopped. "Why didn't you just call the police when you saw me coming?" "'Cause the police would have arrested you and you'd have gotten a lawyer, and the whole thing would have dragged out for months. This way, it's over. Clean and simple." He left without another word, and I went back inside to pour myself a drink. One down, one to go. The video of Derek's confession never went public, but its existence changed everything. Derek told Suze the truth that same night, and by Friday morning, she'd filed for divorce and kicked him out of their house. Alyssa heard about Derek's humiliation through the neighborhood grapevine and realized her safety net was gone. Her lover was ruined, her friends had abandoned her, and her divorce settlement was looking smaller by the day. That's when she got desperate. Saturday morning, she showed up at my door with her lawyer, a nervous-looking man named Gordon Walsh, who specialized in quick divorces and usually dealt with people who had more debt than assets. "Eddie, we need to talk," Alyssa said, "about a settlement." I invited them in, curious to hear what she had in mind. "My client is prepared to be reasonable," Walsh said, consulting his notes. "She's willing to accept 30% of the marital assets in exchange for a quick no-contest divorce." I almost laughed. 30%? That's generous of her, considering she committed adultery and planned to defraud me. There's no proof of fraud, Walsh said quickly. Actually, there is. Phone records, credit card statements, and a video confession from her lover admitting to the plan. Walsh looked at Alyssa, who hadn't mentioned that particular detail. What video? Derek Cross, recorded voluntarily, confessing to 8 months of adultery and a plan to steal marital assets. Would you like to see it? I pulled out my phone and played a few seconds of Derek's confession. Walsh's face went pale. This changes things, he muttered to Alyssa. How much does it change them? I asked. Walsh consulted his notes again, then whispered something to Alyssa. She shook her head violently. My client might be willing to accept 20%. Counteroffer, I said. 0%. And she pays her own legal fees. That's ridiculous, Alyssa snapped. I have rights. You had rights. Then you chose to forfeit them by committing adultery and planning to commit fraud. Now you have whatever I'm willing to give you, which is nothing. Walsh tried to negotiate, but his heart wasn't in it. He could see the writing on the wall as clearly as I could. Alyssa had no leverage, no sympathy, and no case. They left empty-handed, and I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. Sunday night, around midnight, my security system alerted me to movement in the house. Someone was inside, moving around upstairs. I grabbed a baseball bat and crept up from the basement, my phone ready to call emergency. But when I reached the living room, I found Alyssa stuffing electronics into a garbage bag. What the heck are you doing? She spun around, startled. Eddie, I thought you were asleep. I live here, Alyssa. This is my house. What are you doing? Taking what's mine. The TV, the stereo, some of the jewelry, things I bought with my own money. You don't have any money. You haven't worked in 3 years. I worked as a fitness instructor for 8 hours a week, making minimum wage. Everything in this house was bought with money from my business. She clutched the garbage bag tighter. I deserve something, Eddie. 8 years of marriage has to count for something. It would have, if you'd honored your marriage vows. But you didn't, so it doesn't. Please, she said. And for the first time since this whole mess started, her tears looked genuine. I have nothing. No job, no money, no friends. Derek won't even talk to me anymore. I'm staying in a motel, Eddie. A motel. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her, almost. Then I remembered her laughing with Derek about how stupid I was, planning their future with my money, and the moment passed. You should have thought about that before you decided to cheat. I made a mistake. People make mistakes, Eddie. That doesn't mean I should lose everything. You didn't make a mistake, Alyssa. You made a choice, a series of choices over 8 months, and now you get to live with the consequences. She dropped the garbage bag and pulled out her phone. I'm calling the police. You can't keep me from taking my own belongings. Go ahead, call them. But when they get here, I'm going to show them the video of you breaking into my house to steal my property. Because that's what this is. Theft. She looked around the living room at the security cameras she'd forgotten about and realized she was trapped just like Derek had been. You bastard! You planned this. I planned for the possibility that you might do something stupid. You chose to make it a reality. Alyssa sank onto the couch, defeated. What do you want from me, Eddie? What will it take to end this? I want you to disappear. Leave town, start over somewhere else, and never contact me again. With what money? How am I supposed to start over with nothing? The same way I would have had to if your plan with Derek had worked. Figure it out. She stared at me for a long moment, and I saw something die in her eyes. The last trace of the woman I'd married 8 years ago was gone, replaced by someone bitter and broken and empty. I hate you, she whispered. I know, I said, but I don't care anymore. She left the garbage bag and walked out of my house for the last time. I watched through the window as she got into her car and drove away, taillights disappearing into the darkness. The divorce was finalized 2 weeks later. Alyssa got nothing, no money, no property, no alimony. Her lawyer tried to argue that the settlement was unfair, but the evidence of adultery and attempted fraud was overwhelming. Derek's divorce from Susie was messier, but the outcome was similar. He lost his house, his car, and his relationship with his son. Last I heard, he'd moved to another state to escape the shame. Suze thanked me eventually. We ran into each other at the grocery store a month after everything was settled. I know what you did, she said. For me, I mean, making Derek tell the truth. I did it for me, I said. You just benefited from it. Either way, Thank you. I needed to know. I needed to hear him admit it. She looked better, healthier, happier, like a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. What will you do now? I asked. Start over. Maybe move somewhere new, somewhere I don't have to see reminders of him everywhere I look. She paused. What about you? Same thing, I guess. Start over. But I wasn't planning to move. This was my house, my neighborhood, my life. I'd fought for it, and I'd won it back. Rick and I eventually reconciled. He admitted that I'd been right to fight back, that some things were worth losing friends over. The other guys came around too, one by one, as they realized that what I'd done wasn't revenge, it was justice. 3 months after the divorce was final, I ran into Alyssa one last time. She was working at a department store in the next town over, looking tired and older than her 35 years. Eddie, she said when she saw me, how are you? I'm good, you? Getting by? Living in a studio apartment, working retail, but getting by. We stood there awkwardly for a moment, two people who'd once promised to love each other forever. Do you ever think about what might have happened? She asked. If we'd tried harder, gone to counseling, worked things out. No, I said honestly, I don't think about might-have-beens anymore. She nodded like she'd expected that answer. I'm sorry, Eddie. For what it's worth, I'm really sorry. I know you are. But sorry doesn't change anything. I left her there in the department store and drove home to my house, my life, my hard-won peace. The sun was setting as I pulled into my driveway, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. Inside, I poured myself a drink and sat in my living room, surrounded by the things I'd fought to keep, the TV, the stereo, the furniture we'd bought together when we were happy. They were just objects, but they represented something more. They represented the fact that actions have consequences, that betrayal has a price, and that sometimes the good guys actually win. I raised my glass in a toast to the empty room. Here's to new beginnings. Outside, thunder rumbled in the distance, promising rain. But inside my house, everything was quiet and calm and mine,